Integrated solar solutions.
Thanks
Welcome
for
back, Jeremy. We've got an ongoing series where we're talking about solar energy. Today, we're going to talk about like some of the common questions that you should ask and some of the things to look out for and when you're considering a solar solution for your home or business.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Jim. It's great to be back. Yeah, it's gonna be great to go over a few common questions and a few things to look out for when inquiring about going solar. So
When you're sucking up sunshine.
yeah, sucking up sunshine, making power. That's what we love. So
Utilizing that sun, that solar plasma thing in the sky.
yeah, it's the cheapest energy resource out there, right?
It is. So we're moving around. Looks like our cameraman. There we go. A little more centered.
There we go.
What are some of the common questions? Like, well, one is like, I guess, is will your roof do it?
Absolutely. So the most frequently asked question we get for sure is, do I have a good roof? Most of our, I'm going to say a solid chunk, 75, 85% of our residential jobs have traditional shingle roofs, asphalt shingle, which is great. Obviously, if you have a 20-year-old roof or just a roof that's in poor repair, you definitely want to get that done prior to us installing solar.
Yeah, because you have to take the solar panels off to redo the roof and then put them back on. You're going to have costs.
Exactly. It's just
right?
Unnecessary costs. And realistically, if you got your roof done first and then we installed, you don't have to touch it for another 25 years.
So if you have a pitch roof, some of the best roofs would be obviously asphalt shingle, right?
Asphalt shingle, even metal roofs, standing seam is great. They have a special clip to actually clip onto the seam, so there's no penetrations. I mean, there's no one's better than the other. Flat roofs are great. It's a different product that we use for flat roofs. We don't actually do any penetrations in a flat roof. So if you're building a new home, it's obviously great if you have a rough-in for solar. We've done lots of new home rough-ins. So flat roofs are great, pitched, metal, you name it.
So obviously the exposure of the roof is the next thing that matters, like how much roof and you have where the exposure is to, right?
Of course. So, east, south, west are your best options. Straight south, if you have all your panels facing straight south with no shading whatsoever, is going to be your best bang for your buck. Absolutely. However, or having said that, we've done some very impressive systems all over the province, and some of them, not every single one is facing straight south. So we have one that's got a nice easterly tilt to it, and it does extremely well. I watch it all the time on the app, and I'm tracking everyone's system.
I think ours is like southwest, right? Some
panels
on the south and then some on the southwest.
Yeah, exactly. You have some on the east face. I believe you have 4 panels on the east, and then you've got 16.
On the east?
Yeah. The 4 on the front of the house are east, and then you got 14 on your south face.
Oh, yeah, I guess it
southwest.
depends on the house. That's right. Yeah.
So, and yours does quite well, so which is great to see. So, some things to look out for. Another frequently asked question we get is people always wonder what kind of panels we're using. So, we use a monocrystalline panel. We use 500-watt panel. We have 2 different options. One's silver frame, one is all black. The all black is new to the market in that sizing. We've used all black before, just in a much smaller size. So that's exciting news. But more importantly than the panel is actually the inverter. And that's where the magic happens in the solar system and the whole setup. So what's really important to look out for is what size of inverter is your installer using? Is it the right size? Is it too undersized? Is it appropriately sized? Because at the end of the day, you can have 100 panels out there, but if you don't have the appropriate inverter to go with it, you may not be utilizing all of those panels to what they're capable of.
And then some, like you say, all black panel versus like kind of like the silver one. Is that more like for like curb appeal too, or people want to kind of like, if you have a black roof, obviously some people would lean towards
it's
like straight
purely aesthetic. It's purely aesthetic. I actually prefer. I mean, there's no right or wrong. I like the aluminum frame ones, but to me, they look like a traditional solar panel, and you're going solar, so it's kind of cool. But the all black, we have certain customers who are like, yeah, I do it, but it has to be black. No problem. We have them. It's not an issue. And there's no huge difference. The efficiencies are a little different, but we're talking minor details.
So then you kind of model it, like if somebody says, yeah, I want to do it, just kind of model it, and then you model the roof, like the different roof pitches and stuff like that, and then see what the efficiency will be?
Absolutely. So we 3D model the house using LiDAR and all the appropriate technologies to determine the right pitch and everything that's a perfect 3D model of your house. And then we'll even model in some trees that are around it. And then one thing we do is we build in quite a bit of losses into the production estimates. And for us, we're big fans of under promising and over delivering, which is going to lead us into the next topic here that we want to discuss. Is one thing to look out for, or things you should be asking when you're going solar is, how did you come up with the production numbers? So for example, a typical 8 kilowatt residential solar system in Kelowna, you may get 3 different quotes, and one of them might say that, other than price, which is important, but what you want to look at is production numbers. If one guy is telling you it's going to produce 8,000 kilowatt hours, another guy's going to tell you it's going to produce 9,000 kilowatt hours, and then someone else is going to tell you it's putting out 14,000 kilowatt hours, well, something's not right there, and that's not accurate. So you want to be very careful and just look at, other than prices, to focus on how much is this system going to put out. And we're a big fans of, most of the time, we have the lowest production numbers. And that's just because we want to set up our customers for
everybody's
success.
using basically the same panels, aren't they?
Yes and no. I mean, there's lots of different panels out there, but at the end of the day, a solar panel is a solar panel. It's going to do what it's supposed to do. More of the magic is on the inverter side, which is, again, another important thing you have to look out for is what size of inverter and how many and so on and so forth. But really the production numbers is what you want to look out for, because if company A is saying your 8 kilowatt system is going to put out 10,000 kilowatt hours and give you 100% offset, when in reality, you're maybe 60 or 70% at best, is that something do you want to move forward with that company under, false pretenses or whatever it is? So, or on a hope or on a perfect year, it's going to put out that number. It's maybe not the best situation. We're big fans of being well under. And like this year, for example, we've had a very rainy, cloudy, cold May, June. So, if your system was based on the best possible scenario, you're definitely not getting it this year.
Not right now, anyway.
No, not right now. That's for sure. But it's good. We're not gonna have any fires this year, so hopefully not. Hopefully not.
Well, we never know. It could get sunny for July and August typically.
Yeah.
And then your panel, that's a big thing for a lot of people. Yeah. If you have a 100-watt panel, a 200-watt panel, and I think some people are getting like more than a 200-watt panel now.
Well, we use a 500-watt panel, and most common out there on the residential side is around a 400-watt panel. And there's nothing wrong with it. We've used them before. It's a great option. However, we really like using the bigger panels where possible. It's just your maximum.
Oh, sorry, I was talking about the panel. I messed you up there, but you can finish it. But I was talking about the amp panel, the 100 amp panel.
Oh, your electrical panel.
Yeah, your electrical panel.
Okay, so
because I'm thinking, wow, 500, and it's like I'm behind.
Yeah, we've done a few on 400 amp service, but not 5.
About amps. Yeah. Amps and watts.
Amps and watts. My apologies there, but most services, it doesn't really matter too much. There's always a way to work around it depending on what you want to do. But yeah, most homes in Kelowna are 200 amp service.
Older homes probably 100, right?
Yeah, 100 or 125. Yeah. But there's we've got all kinds of tips and tricks to work around it. Right. And at the end of the day, if someone does want a service upgrade, we do it all the time.
Yeah, but they're going to put an EV charger, and they're probably going to have to upgrade their panel if they're.
Yeah, we did that for your neighbor. So we did a nice service upgrade and put in a charger and all that good stuff. Yeah.
And then what are some of the other questions people have? I guess, like, how long does it take? I guess that would be one of my questions. If somebody came to like, hey, how long will it take once the guy shows up and starts,
Depending on the difficulty of the installation. So I'll give you a perfect example. Right now, we are doing a installation on West Side Road, and it is a tough one. It's a 12-12 pitch. There's a few dormers in the way. It's a straight north-south roof, so we can only put them on the south side. And we started yesterday. We got electrical done. We got our layout finalized. But then, of course, there was a thunderstorm. So we
Don't
couldn't
wanna be
do
on
it.
the roof end, right?
Yeah, you don't want to be on the roof with metal objects, that's for sure. So we called it early yesterday, and then we're back on site today. And this one here should be a full 3 day job. We're doing a
But it's
couple.
not a long time. Like mine, I think was like a full day, 2 half days.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it's not like, they're going to be traipsing around your roof or your house for weeks on end.
No, it's not weeks on end. Most of them are pretty quick. 2 to 3 days is, I would say, is the average. We're doing a 270 panel job right now in the Kootenays.
That's a big job.
Oh yeah, it's a big job on one building, and
That's commercial, obviously, right?
commercial, south facing roof, great setup. It's going to be
How much energy does that thing generate?
We're hoping it puts out about 150,000 kilowatt hours a year. That's the
Wow.
goal. We've oversized
system,
it.
right?
Yeah, it's nice and big. We actually had Technical Safety BC pop in on us yesterday, made a surprise visit, and they were very happy with what they saw. So they gave us a pat on the back and said, "Continue doing what you're doing." And
So are you seeing a lot more commercial stuff happening now?
we are. The commercial's good. It's for some commercial clients, the issue is, okay, well, which building do I do first? Because most of these guys have lots of buildings.
Right.
And then if it's a flat roof, there's a lot that needs to get done behind the scenes.
Have to do some engineering too, or just get it
Yeah.
approved by an engineer?
Correct. So permits, engineering, all of that fun stuff has to be done. But low pitch roofs are great. That's what we're doing right now. So it's
I'm
working
starting
well.
to say, like, obviously our street is quite dense now with solar.
Yeah, there's quite a few. There's half a dozen on.
Yeah, just on the one street there.
Yeah.
So I imagine as people start to see it and then see the value in it, that'll continue to go on, right?
Absolutely. Let's get back to some of the frequently asked
Sure.
questions. So we've gone over some panels, inverters, roof type. Another common
And then you're
one.
going to probably stop pounding on the desk. People are probably going to say, "Hey, who's this guy?"
Another important one we get is, what about the winter time? Like, what do we do with the solar panels if they're covered in snow? What do I get up there and clean them? No, just leave them alone. Let it melt. Let it slide off naturally. Just there's no need to go up there.
Risk your life.
Yeah, just it's not worth it for those few kilowatts you're going to get in the wintertime. So leave your panels alone in the wintertime is a big one. What else? We were talking about one just before.
Yeah, I guess the one that comes to my mind, if your roof isn't like kind of like working, could you do it in your yard if you had a big yard that was kind of like on a slope of a hill or something like that?
Absolutely. We actually just did one just outside the city here. We did a nice 16 kilowatt ground mount. It was unbelievable. This homeowner had a 5-acre property. The house was down below, and they had no access behind the house where we wanted to put the solar. Zero access to heat. 3 out of the 5 acres on the property were inaccessible. So what we did was we ended up putting in a road from the main driveway where you came in off the street, and we essentially put in our own road, and we partnered with a local excavation company in town here. They built the road for us, and then they flattened out a beautiful solar pad. It was, it looked, before we touched it, it was straight bush and rock and trees and everything. And we made a beautiful solar site. We brought in everything we needed to do a nice ground mount setup, and we executed a beautiful 32 panel, 16 kilowatt job, and we've made the house net zero. And we actually killed 2 birds with one stone. Not only did we do the solar, but we now gave the homeowner access to the rest of their property, and now they're going to do a bee farm up there and use the rest of the site nicely.
So obviously a little more costs in the construction part of it, but then
Yes,
I imagine in the mounting there's putting in some supports and stuff like that, whereas the
Yeah,
roof already kind of has that.
correct. So for a ground mount, there's multiple ways to do it. You can do screw piles, you can do lock blocks, you can do a custom mount. There's so many different ways you can do it. If you have a container, you can mount to a container, which we just did recently. So there's so many options that you can do on the ground that you can't do on the roof. And honestly, the guys love working on the ground. So if you do
Imagine
have
you
the
can clean
land,
the panels off in the winter if you wanted to.
you can. There's just it's a lot easier
To
when
work
it's
with,
on the.
I guess,
Yeah,
right?
you're just not going up and down ladders, and you can drive your truck right to the where you're installing. So there are lots of benefits with ground mount, just depending on where it is and how far from the house.
What you have for space, I guess, too.
What you have for space and where you are and how far from the house. There are some additional costs, but
I see some cattle ranchers are using them, and they actually provide shade
correct.
for cattle now.
Yeah.
Right?
You can do. There's a winery in the South Okanagan that has solar all over their car park with EV chargers.
So in the U.S. and California, there's a lot of Tesla supercharger stations that have solar arrays up top, and it's the shade while you're parking.
It's a great way to do it. I mean,
and I've seen some fences now being used. So they have panels on both sides. They have
so they can fence. You can do solar fencing. So instead of doing like a traditional chain link, you can do solar panels
that can take energy on both sides.
Yeah, you use a bifacial solar panel, and then you can do the whole perimeter of your property or whatever you'd like.
So I guess step one is the free consult. Like you can reach.
Yeah.
We have a form at the bottom of this video as well, where you can actually, if you want a free consult, and you'll take a look at your house and
the first step really is give us a shout. Let's figure out where your building is, where your house is, how much you use, what's the exposure like. That's really the first few steps. And then go from there. And if it's a good candidate, great. Let's book a meeting and take a look at stuff, put eyes on the ground and have a look. And if it doesn't look good and if it doesn't look like a solid candidate, then we're just going to tell you, hey, it's not really worth it. So we have tons of work lined up. We don't need to, do the ones that are going to be questionable. So
any common questions that people have or misconceptions people might have?
A common one, another myth is always like, you need batteries. Well, you don't need batteries. If you want batteries, you can. If you want to store your excess, and that is something we're getting more into as the rumors with BC Hydro seem to be possibly coming true of going to the time of use billing, which is a whole other topic.
So you can like store it and then sell it back at a higher time?
Correct. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's going to be a whole other avenue in the future or whenever that gets released. Probably, if I had to guess, when that Site C dam comes online, it's probably have something to do with that.
I've heard that. I mean, this is just what I heard, that in California they're actually, because we have a grid system where we actually tie in, right?
Yep.
Where they're saying some places, and I've heard this, that are going to cancel that.
So part of the installation process is you have a signed net metering agreement with Fortis or BC Hydro, and you're correct. In California, we have a client actually right now who has a house in California that has solar on it, and they're grandfathered into the old program, which was the 1-to-1 net metering, which is what it is here now. But now in California, it's only 25 cents on the dollar for each kilowatt that you have in excess. So
is that because there's too much solar going on down there?
I don't know the whole reasoning behind it. I don't think anyone knows the truth or the reason why they changed it. But
a lot of their energy now comes from solar for the whole grid system down there in California.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why the battery technology is so adamant down there, and why they're doing so much down there. Here you don't really need it so much unless you want to have power during a power outage, or get ready for any bill changes potentially in the future. But right now, straight grid tied is the best bang for your buck.
Because the batteries can be more expensive than the whole solar system, right?
They can be, absolutely.
Depending on how much you want to store.
Depending on how much you want to store, how many hours, how do you want to run the house? Is it just essentials, or do you want to run everything? So I
got a cheap battery solution for everybody.
So I get a Tesla?
Cybertruck. Yeah.
Cybertruck.
Because it's going to go both ways.
That's not so cheap, Jim. I guess cheap is relative. But.
Well, I think a lot of the Teslas, and Cybertruck is the first one that has, but you have to convert some stuff. Like it's supposedly you can run power back and forth, but it is a battery storage system, right?
Yeah, I think the F-150 Lightning does that too.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, so their trucks are doing it.
Any other, like when you're out there meeting with the homeowners, any other like common things when somebody will say, "Oh, does solar do this or that?"
Another common one, so with a grid tied setup, and a common question is, if there's a power failure, is the house still running? And the answer is no. There's multiple reasons, but the main one is with the utility. So if the power's off and say Fortis or BC Hydro is working in the area, you obviously cannot have your solar pushing back electricity into the grid. So that is the main.
You'd need to put in a cutoff switch and then probably batteries to make that work, right?
Yeah, batteries, absolutely. And just you'd have a transfer switch that would say, okay, power's off. We know now, okay, we need to work
like an electronic
independent.
transfer switch
Yep.
that would automatically flip, and then that would just keep the power located. Yeah, because otherwise it would just suck all the power out anyway. Right?
Correct. If whatever the house isn't using is going to be shipped out, and that's obviously we need to avoid that. So there are a few safety related issues that are involved with every installation, and we go over all that with you.
And then you can monitor everything on your app as well.
Yeah, exactly. Just before I walked in, I was looking at all the sites we have running, and it's
And then you can
great.
text Jeremy and say, "What's this?"
yeah. What's this? Why
going on
why
here?
did I produce so much today, and not yesterday?
There you go.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I think that's we touched on most of the common, frequently asked questions, and the one thing to look out for. So I think that's pretty good.
There you go. Again, if you have an inkling to look at solar, you just fill out the form below, and then Jeremy will reach out and then take a look at your home and give you, a free quote, and then you can compare that with other quotes or whatever, what have you, and then see if sucking up sunshine is in your future.
Absolutely. Thanks.
There's a song that goes with that too, I think, right?
Sorry, I don't know. It might be before my time, Jim.
There you go. And the Oilers,
yeah, we got a big game tonight.
big game tonight.
Are they gonna pull off the comeback? Let's see.
You just got to win a shift at a time, right?
Yeah,
One shift at a time.
one shift at a time.
And everybody's like, "Oh, they got to win 3 games." But just like, well, actually, I'll just have to win the last game.
Well, the
team that wins the last game wins it all.
They've got a few more to go, so we're all rooting for them. Let's see. I mean, last game was impressive there with that 8-1 victory, but
Canada
we'll see how it
needs
goes.
something that unites Canadians.
We really do. It's
go.
been too long since good old Stanley was in Canada.
Been a long time, 93 or something like that.
I think Montreal was the last.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm from originally. I'm a Montrealer, so
There you go. Are you a Habs fan?
I am. I have to be honest. I haven't been so into the hockey lately. I was a huge hockey fan. I played a lot of hockey when I was a kid, but the last 5 years or so, I kind of lost touch with it. But now, obviously, I'm definitely watching the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, it just kind of takes something like that to kind of bring people back together and back to the game. But hopefully, and Kelowna Rockets, there's a connection there with Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
Rockets.
Absolutely.
And then,
There's actually quite a few ex-Habs that actually live in Kelowna. So if you are a ex-Montreal Canadian hockey player, please feel free to reach out for the special locals discount.
special Hab discount.
Yeah, special Habs discount. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, that's all for today, and thank you for watching Kelowna Now.